Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to host the Industry Dialogue, and our topic for today is getting the maximum from Generation Z and Alpha. Generation Z and Alpha generations are the youngest demographic groups in the workforce today, with Generation Z being born between mid 1990s and mid 2000s, and Alpha being born from the mid 2010 onwards. Millennials are the generation with the early 1980s as the starting birth year, and the mid 1990s to early 2000 as the ending birth year. From an employment perspective, many job options exist for millennials, Generation Z, and Alpha generations. With the different characteristics, the preferred job options for each generation can vary, but a focus on technology, creativity, and social consciousness is often present. The Alpha generation will be entering the workforce after 2030, which is when the oldest member of the generation will be around 20 years old. They are expected to be most technologically advanced generation yet, having grown up with smartphone, tablets, digital devices from a very young age. They are also likely to be more diverse and global than previous generations, as they will have grown up increasingly in the interconnected world. It will be interesting to see how the unique experiences and perspective shape the workforce of the future. With this, I'd like to proceed further, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sunny Naran, Head of HR in Zydex Industries Private Limited. He comes with more than 18 years of rich experience with firms such as Sarah Bathware, Muthoot France, Claris Life Sciences, and Atul Limited. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Sunny.
Pleasure is all mine.
Thanks. To start with, first question I'd like to put it across. Over the last few generations, what has been the fundamental shift in the employment space?
Okay, wonderful to begin with. I think when we talk about employment space, I think the workspace has changed, the infrastructure has changed. One of the most important things that you would have heard, and when you look on to the television boards, and they'll always say there are layoffs happening, there are more of automation projects coming in. There are more of AIs in the machine language. You would also heard about probably the part-time workers, the gig economy. Everything would have come in, and this is what is changing, and this is what was not there 10 years back. I have been dealing with this for last 10 years, where my friends were young then. Today I am an age where I'm handling a team which is a younger team. When we look at those things together, there are a lot of dynamics which have changed in the companies when it comes to infrastructure as well as the workforce. Not a distant part, I'll tell you one of the most important things. I'll take you back to your days when we used to talk about my father or my parents when they used to work then. What happened then was, my father used to tell me loyalty is one of the most important things in the company. Right. They used to work hard.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely, they used to work hard to ensure that they are more productive. And they're also looked as one of the most efficient employees in the company.
Right.
Now that's where you would have heard about the era when it was more of giving golden watches upon retirement. There were all parties happening when you get a confirmation or when you were promoted to a next phase.
Basically, this is a gift for the retirement.
Absolutely,
the shown by
the company that way. That was back then.
Yeah.
Now with 20 years or 30 years, you look at this is nowhere. Now I'll tell you one of the most important aspect of what has happened in a couple of years with the dynamics, how manpower or maybe the humans have changed that way. There was a survey done by one of the most important, one of the most interesting companies, maybe People Matter or others, or McKinsey, and they said the average age of an employee or a member in the team is not more than 3.2 years. So from where we were talking about, like for example, whole life you are serving in one company, and here you are serving with 3.2 years only. And as far as People Matter, there's one of the interesting things which I want to tell about what it said. It said India by 2026 will have 64.8% of the population will be under the age of 15 to I think 64, that's what it said. You won't realize how much it is. It's 440 million millennials who are going to work with us probably next 5 years, and understand the dynamics, how it will change that way. So more of AI, probably more of artificial intelligence, more of your machine language, more of social media campaign committee. Because this age, earlier it was more on the hard work and the physical that you do. Today, it is more on the fact that you're working on internet, you're working on the AIs and the machine language.
It's a complete transformation which is
It's a complete transformation in the workspace management.
Right.
Today, with pandemic coming in, it has become all remote.
Yeah.
You can connect to anyone, everywhere and anywhere. That's one. At just a tip of a button that you can click on, and then you'll get access to anyone that you want to have. This is what is working, and that is what the dynamics have changed. Even a conservative manufacturing company did allow the people to go from work from home when it came in a matter when there was second and the third wave coming in. So the dynamic and the infrastructure level and also the workforce, this all has changed in the last 4 years.
You also touched upon this tenure, like 3 years average indoor.
Absolutely.
Or even the gratuity was 5 years, or even which the government is also thinking in terms of reducing that, right? Because average tenure is very difficult.
Absolutely.
Very few people are reaching now because the change,
Exactly.
quick change.
And I'll tell you one of the
change
most,
the dynamics.
I'll tell you one of the most interesting chapter out of it. When a person reaches, when an employee who works for 4 years, it's just that 4 year, 1 month, and he decides to move out. The first thing that everyone pitches him to say is, abhi nikal raha hai. Wait for another 7-8 months and you'll have a gratuity. And most of them say that, kitna milega? It's a better than kahin aur se milega. So this is what the mindset has changed. Earlier people used to think about, okay, gratuity is one more lap which we have to achieve and then go to the other targets that they have set in. But because of this, people have become, the employees at the young age have become more conscious about where they stay and how much growth they are expecting. Not about the money, but in terms of how much professional development that they look at the next job. That matters them a little more.
There is ambitious in terms of salary level also. That's the reason I think people keep changing. Earlier, see people, even I was interacting with a person who spent more than 3 decades in a company. I think it's all about people expectations. If you have that pressure, not only from family, from yourself, but also from other people, why other people are getting more salary, why is continuing the same company, which was not there earlier. So what exactly people are looking at over a period of time, that has changed. I think this is a result. As a result, this is what is changing now.
Plus, one more thing which has happened in the phase that if you look at the psychology of parents around, I tell you, my parents used to tell me that आपके scores अच्छे आने चाहिए, that's how you're going to get a good job. Okay. Look at now how you are handling your kids. You never say that you're going to get good marks. It's the effort that you appreciate, because these are smaller things that you know that while the transition has happened in the mindset of people also, it's the way you appreciate the efforts. Now you look at the target versus the success, or you look at the efforts versus the success that you look at, or the target that you look at. This has changed entirely. Earlier, parents were after the marks. They were again saying that you'll get a good job once you get into this, and then there are other portfolios you're going to manage, then you're going to go bigger in the organization. Now they don't say, they just say that probably that you'll have to work a little more smarter, because you are born in an era where technological development and advancement is happening.
The opportunities are used.
And the opportunities.
Earlier it is very limited.
Absolutely.
Few things, either people think about doctor, engineer, all those things. Now, so many things which are there, so people go for it. I think it's a big change which has happened over a period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is where your entire, that's why I keep saying that workforce has changed and the dynamics working around them or managing a team today, it's very different than it used to work then.
That's fair. So, considering the perspective of a job seekers, what kind of jobs are these young people most interested in? Obviously, you've been interacting with people, you're hiring people and all. So, what do you think this change?
Fair. I think as this beautiful lady sitting out there, they'll tell you. When we talk about these generation people, they do not want to get into traditional job or 8 to 5. Very honestly, if you tell them to do MIS, database management or anything, they'll say no. They are always looking at something which adds value to the vision of the company, or their purpose is aligned so much to the vision of the company that they feel that they are motivated and they are they feel that they are basically being offered that role which will basically connect to them, to the organizational vision and the roles, what they expect out of it. Now, if you look at today, when the technological advancement is so much, where my son at the age of 10 knows how to handle a YouTube and Instagram and social media. Imagine the workforce today in the offices, they know how to handle certain things. So what they love is, I tell you, if you ask me, what they love today is the social marketing job, maybe media, or maybe the advertisement job, where you have more access and more being highlighted in the world of the success that they look at today. It's more of that you are on the television and you are there in the pictures. That means you are successful. That's what they look at.
The visibility they require.
The visibility that they definitely need today. But if you look at the general manpower, if I've seen them, I've been working with them for the last 10 years, as I said, a decade, I've understood that anything that you give them, and if you don't say why have you done that and why are you giving them a project, and if you don't make them understand what is the purpose of doing it, they'll not do it. they will not do. Either they'll do a half job or shoddy job that they want to do it. Otherwise, if you tell them the purpose, you make them align to the vision, what you're doing it, and appreciate the little efforts that you want, you will see the change.
So
but when you talk,
get convinced.
see, with them it is more easy to connect. I tell you, being a millennial, I was born in 1983, and I'm the oldest part of that group. I always talk to my team and say that I am turning 40 tomorrow. Okay, you are 25. If I tell them to come to 30, they will never come. But if they tell me, sir, why don't you adjust with me? It's most of the time I have to come back to my 30 year of age and say that, okay, if I had been there at 25, I would have done the same thing. And that's what makes me connect with them. And that is what I have learned with them, that if you overpower or if you use your power to control them, that will not work with them. So all those jobs which are basically connected with maybe in terms of getting highlighted in the company, or basically where you have more of connecting with the world, where I could understand there are three major aspects where my team wants to get into. One is media. They get all the leverage of using it and all the possibility of getting successful right there. Second is machine. If you talk to people, they always believe that people in IT are more happily blessed with all the perks and benefit that they enjoy rather than working in one infra company or one of a manufacturing setup. And the third area that they look at is communication, where they can speak more, not write, but they can speak more, and then they say that when you speak, you're more visible. These are the three areas where I could learn that these people are more interested in it. If you tell them to do a desk job,
their own brand.
If you tell them to do a desk job, they're not. They'll be doing it for a couple of days, maybe months together, but at the end of the day, the major reasons of attrition today is because they look at more of a job rotations or more roles to be offered in the time. That is what has been working with them. So every now and then the companies have got a policy of job rotation and job offers that they get the new roles. And that's what we brought in the company, where we wanted every 3 years there has to be a job rotation happening, because these guys would not stick around with you if you don't. And when we linked it with the survey that says 3.2 years, so we thought it's better that we keep it at 3 years. By the time it decides to move, there is a job rotation happening with that.
And even job rotation also, though, it's very well pointed out. But I think job rotation also, the other thing is, other jobs should be very challenging. So that the interest is there, otherwise people start thinking, okay, I think it's a wrong move.
Absolutely.
Change. I think it's another angle to it.
Yes.
It has to be something which really creates an interest for them, they learn that, and so that creativity or that should come up.
Exactly.
So I think that's another challenge. Obviously, it's a nature, a lot of things you have to work. So good, I think a lot many things you're already doing it. So with this only, so what has been the transformation of function of a leader? Obviously, when you deal with such a generation, like you mentioned, there's a lot of adjustment you're doing, but overall it's not about one person, you know, like everybody. So a lot of adjustment changes has to be done so that you take these people along with you and we come to another part, you know, that's
absolutely
KPIs, KRS, and so on.
If you torture them with KPIs and the KPIs in the projects and the deadlines and timelines, they'll never work for you. I tell you very honestly, how we have changed, and I have analyzed with 3 years of research that I've gone into this millennials and Gen Z, how they work. The first important aspect of my understanding was that there has to be a project-based portfolios where they love to get into different projects. If you give them a mundane job of doing some entry work, or for example, my recruiter, at the end of the day, if you ask them how energetic you are after speaking to 15 people, they're not. When I tell them, yeah, you have learned the interpersonal skill while you connect with them, they say, sir, let it be there. I know how much energy they squeeze out of me when I talk something which is repeated in nature.
Right.
So that is where we decided then, okay, you got to have certain offers to be made, but yes, in between, you're also going to get into the employee engagement activities as a part of your project. There are additional projects that we give them, so that they, when they actually, it becomes a mundane for them. So when they get bored out of it, they get into the additional project that they get. Once they understand that, then they start working on it and they get a flexibility of working around with that. That is what we have understood. With equality, with inclusivity, that is what working with that. I'll tell you, exactly for a year, I did a program with them for 11 times. I had to move out with them, not during office hours, exactly after 7 p.m. Just to be around with them, understand their nuances of how they work, how they gel out. They look at the project, they look at how much you are connected with them. They don't want to be appreciated in the group, to be honest. They want individual recognition because they don't believe that everyone has worked together. They are a good team player in the end, but they feel that individual appreciation bags a little more prestige than getting into a group recognition. Plus, they always need to be pushed up. They always say that encouragement will help. it's not the negative reinforcement that works for them. It is always the positive ones. You'll have to wait and watch. It is not that it will work for everyone, but you'll have to find out a way where it is more of the positive reinforcement that will work for them. With all those surveys that have been done, I'll tell you there are 5 different traits that they look at. First important thing is equality. You cannot come out of that thing because you don't treat people based on biases and other thing. You cannot bring all Punjabis in the company and say that I'm the head of the HR.
Gone were the days.
Gone were the days that you can bring in. I'll have to have diversity, inclusive, a team that will connect with well with each other specifically if you look at. Then one of the things that they expect from a team leader is innovation. They say that every day if you want to do a mundane job of doing certain things, they don't appreciate that. They want every time if they come to the manager, they have to give them some ideas, or he has to give an idea, or she has to give an idea.
Challenging something new so that the interest is there.
Absolutely, their interest has to be maintained. That's what they look at. So these are the 2 basic things. These are most important thing that they are looking. Third important thing is, which is there in every book that you read. I'll tell you one of the books which is written by Alex, which is Gen Z workplace integration or transformation, which says that if these Gen Zs or the millennials are given the autonomy of work and the freedom to choose their own ways of dealing with the problems and situations, they will come better. And that is what they require. They don't want to get micromanaged in any aspect of what you look at. If you give them appreciation of a little gratitude of what they have done, a little push up for the efforts, a little positive reinforcement, a little equality and diversity, encourage them to take up higher tasks, I'll tell you different things would happen. I'll tell you one of the examples of my own team where people who came, they were not ready to do there is an event which we have called as Funkar, where there are 500 people there sitting there in the auditorium, and I used to do it for the last 3 years. Then I said, okay, this is up for it now, I've done it for 3 years, someone else has to do it someday. So I called up my team member and I said, Vidhi, you want to do it? He said, sir, I'm a junior, I have just 1 year experience. 500 people, 1,000 eyes. If you're wearing specs, add another 1,000 eyes. You have 2,000 eyes looking at you. And it is definite that you're going to get nervous and all those things. But a little push-up. Imagine that girl stood there for 2.5 hours to actually entertain or be there as a part of a team where they were entertaining people of how a Funkar or cultural activities handled. It's just a little push that they needed, and it was given. Now, if I say everything is positive, no. There are certain times that we have to deal with their moods. They have to deal with their other things where they think that, okay, sir, aaj kaam karne ka mood nahi hai. What will you do? So sometimes you'll have to take a backseat and say, okay, whether I should shout back on her or him, saying that aaj kaam kyun nahi kar raha hai. But sometimes you'll also tell them, okay, take a 15 minutes break, go there and enjoy your life and then come back and start working. So that 15-minute break helps them. So these are the things that you have to, as a manager or as a business leader, it's not the HR role, it's not the business role, it's the whole manager's ecosystem where every manager has to understand that they are very different chaps. They're born in an era which is more advanced, and in terms of their expectation, they need certain things before they start. Or else you'll have to face that there are new people coming in every year in the company. That's what we have to do.
Even things what you mentioned, if you had responsibility and accountability, I think with responsibility, accountability plays a major role. If they start feeling accountable, then they really want to go and deliver that.
Exactly.
They know there's something on the stage.
Yeah,
this is where they want to go and deliver actually. Okay, so do you think the new generation is preferring entrepreneurship more than the traditional jobs, or still I think they're more or less fine with continuing the same trend?
I asked a couple of people about this because I also wanted to understand, because I saw a lot of people getting into becoming an entrepreneur. So I asked them, and they said, there was one interesting thing. One of my friends told me why he went into business. He said, one of the most important thing is that companies have started laying off people. My father was working for the last 10 years in a company, and in just one store he was asked to leave. I said, what kind of job security do we have when we work? It's better if I get into this equilibrium of getting into a maybe kind of business or becoming an entrepreneur, where I have control over things, where I know what to do and what not to do, and there is no pressure. I know if I fail, it's because of me only. If the company starts throwing me out because of some other reasons, it's not my failure. It is something that company couldn't take care of me, and that's the reason they started leaving me. So I could sense it that people are moving towards more of the entrepreneurship, and also there's something called as DIY. Most of the young millennials, or you see this Gen Z, probably what you say, they're more up to DIY. That means do it yourself. They say that, okay, I don't want to get into this, what have been defined by the companies. I want to do it my way. There are certain projects that I give them in a certain way. And I tell them why it didn't went well when I was handling it. They say, okay, that was a time when you used to do it because there was some other traditional way of doing it. Now, when we came in, let me do it on my way, and I'll make sure that it will work as I know how much and what people do require at the ground floor. And most of the projects ran successfully because they could understand the sense of what their team members are expecting out of them when it comes to doing it yourself. And that is what worked for them. And along with that, what I say that along with the sense of giving them an autonomy of work, the freedom of work with a little appreciation, and then letting them do it on their own, it will definitely help you to get what you desired and what place you wanted to get these things done.
This is the space actually to work like an entrepreneur, basically.
See,
whether they're doing service or they're doing their own.
Absolutely. See, what are one of the books which Alex said, it says it's not about the getting into an entrepreneurship. It says the mindset has to be in an organization. You can still work as an entrepreneur. It's just that you have to change the mindset of that. And that's what little clicked to most of the people that when I shared this with my team, they said that is where we are thinking. We wanted to become an entrepreneur at first place, but because we couldn't have that opportunity or maybe the privilege of getting into handling a business. But now within the company also, if there are certain projects that I can handle, I can bring in that entrepreneurship mentality and help company doing that. That is also working for that. But truly, yes, there are little surveys being done in the outside world which said, one of them was one done by I think McKinsey, which said about approximately 73% when they spoke to a couple of people in US, they wanted to get into this entrepreneurship, more of getting into a later traditional job of working from 9 to 5. So that's what it said.
I think there was lots of flexibility also. I think that's another reason, especially when you talk about overseas.
I'll tell you, I come from a business family. We had this textile business and still running. So when I look at my brother who handles it today, he sometimes wakes up at 10 o'clock and goes to office at 11. I have to come back, I have to go to my office, I have to come here at 9 o'clock sharp. In between sometime it happens that he's not feeling well, he comes back home and takes a rest. If I know how many projects I have on my head and I have to go back, I cannot go back home. So there are pros, but there are certain times when there is a recession, my company would take care of me for a certain period of time, but for my brother's business, I don't know what will happen. So there are all pros and cons.
Yeah,
but yes, the younger generation are tilted towards more of getting into a business today rather than getting into traditional jobs.
So there's so many changes, obviously. Things are dynamic now, obviously the generation, different thought processes. So how do you see the job market in the next 20 years?
Wonderful question. My son is 10-year-old and probably there's a term coined as alpha generation. This was people who were born after 2010 and 12, so he's born after 12. Now he will be available in the market in 2030, probably 2030 and 35 somewhere.
The oldest member of the generation.
The oldest members and the youngest of the lot, if you look at that way.
Yeah.
So I have been to one of the sessions on AI. A year back, I had written a session on how AI is going to impact your life. There was a wonderful survey which was done there. It said 60% of the job that your children are going to do still don't exist. 60% of the job that your children are going to do is not existing today. It's going to exist when they look at it. And there were 3 important factors that came out of it. 1, if AI takes over, the first job which will become more critical is people who create those AI systems. Have you heard about Sophia? Probably you would have heard about a Sophia, that is a 2016 social humanoid robotics which was developed by some Hong Kong based Hansen brother, I think Hansen, some name of the company who created that. This was the first social humanoid which can express also. He can laugh, he can she can cry, she can tell things, she can bring out emotions which are not there. She even got a citizenship of Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And when people start talking about it then in 2016, it was very clear that if AI comes in, there are a lot of places where robotics are taking care of your normal routine stuff. The main job would be the people who create it. So that means it will be a tech job. Those people will stay in the era of services.
So over a period of time, those jobs will get involved. Yeah.
These jobs will come in. Second, you'll have to have surveillance and vigilance of these things. There has to be an aura created where these AIs, machine language, are not misused somewhere. So there is going to be universe where there are going to be compliances and due diligences, and there are senior professionals sitting there making sure that these are used. Like policemen, they ensure that the law and the order is in place. Your cyber laws are in place. There are going to be another job created out of that. The third thing that they said was trainers. I was a little surprised to understand why trainers. They said, who is going to teach them? Who is going to teach them? They are going to take away your maybe routine stuff, but who is going to teach them? Who is going to teach other people that how you do use this robot? The creators are different, the trainers are different, and the compliance officers are different. So these three jobs will stay for longer than any other job. There were also sessions of why the HR will go away tomorrow in case if you don't adapt to the new processes. There were also sessions of how manufacturing setups where you will have less manpower and more productivity coming out of robots and everything else. But this would work. Now, how India is going to take up those things in the near future, I'm confident that yes, with last 10 years, if you look at the technological development, it's insane. Time when I used to have mobile phones of Nokia in 2005, in 15 it all changed, in 23 it is all changing. You never know what's going to come in, and you never know what's going to get into it. I was talking about laptops, now we are going to think about old tops coming in someday. So the technology is going to take over someday. It's just that how techy we are, how much we adopt to the tech. It's going to be easy for these people, then the new generation, because they're born in the era where they have already been built with it. For us who are born in 1980s, we'll have to struggle a little. And people who are probably Gen X, or you say baby boomers, if they're still there, they're going to face that trouble of attending this or maybe understanding this new tech world is going to appear out of.
The good thing is, like you mentioned, we don't even know what sort of jobs will come up.
Absolutely.
Like 60% talking about new jobs will evolve.
Absolutely. It makes us a little more concerned also. Isn't that my job will go away? Because you never know what the 60% constitute today. Yeah. But this was something that they said, and very repeatedly they said that this world is going to change. And yes, the job market will definitely improve. If these things come in more so, the job market will also improve. If you look at the universities and the admissions that are happening, how many number of universities and colleges have been there, they're going to throw out every year some people. So if most of the students are going to come out, they need to get jobs. And this is where the new ventures and new technological advancement will give them more opportunities to get a job. Now, we are still far away to handle alpha generation, which is much more difficult.
Yeah.
Right? You would have your own children to look at it when they don't understand. They don't look at you when you tell them, but what you do, they repeat it. So that is how the alpha generation will come in, and they will have a different methodology and the nuances of handling them then. But let's wait. I think it will be all in the positive way that we look at.
But yeah, definitely.
And we definitely look at, if I can handle my son today, I definitely say that even if I turn 50 in 2030, I'll still be able to take care of the people who would be working with me at the young generation level.
The pace is little fast when it talks about in terms of change. So that obviously people are adapting that change.
Absolutely. I think it's working very well.
So with this, we come to an end of our session, and I'd like to thank you once again for joining us and sharing a lot of insight about today's topic. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Nice interacting. Thank you.